Hey guys, thank you for watching the Slat Rock channel. You know, the main event is a spot that's supposed to be reserved for a company's creme de la creme, the wrestlers that everyone wants to see and who have paid good money to do so. The idea being that you save the best for last. Professional wrestling has seen guys like Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan bring in lots of money for promoters, despite having fairly routine matches. On the other hand, guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan have shown that you don't have to be a big man to get over if you have the right mix of charisma and mat skills. In my opinion, main event wrestlers are required to possess 1. A good look, 2. Good in-ring ability, 3. Good mic skills, 4. Great work ethic and reputation, 5. Fantastic ability to connect with the fans as either a face or a heel. The following list of wrestlers had no business being in the main event as they lacked one or more skills to be a main eventer. 1. Heidenreich. There's not much to say about a wrestler when your claim to fame is taking Michael Cole's manhood. John Heidenreich had that big man look that Vince McMahon rubs one out to in Titan Tower, but like many other big men signed by WWE, Heidenreich had trouble putting one foot in front of the other, let alone putting on a good match. Heidenreich began squashing opponents while reciting poetry he referred to as disaster pieces. That name could have been applied to any of his matches as well, but that didn't stop WWE from putting him into a main event program with The Undertaker, followed by a tag team with Road Warrior Animal. As devastating as Hurricane Katrina was, it did have the unexpected benefit of seeing Heidenreich take time off to spend with his family. In January 2006, the WWE had a rare lucid moment and released Heidenreich from his contract. Number 2. Snitsky. Unlike Heidenreich, Gene Snitsky brought much more to the table, or in this case, the ring. Not only did he punt babies, but he had terrible back knee, or acne on the back. That's usually a sign of steroid abuse, but due to the lawyers at Titan Towers, that's merely speculation on our part. And was eventually revealed to have really bad body odor. Talk about a great gimmick for getting over. In any case, Snitsky started off strong as he looked to be just another jobber paired off against Kane. Instead, he ended up causing Lita to miscarry her storyline Spawn of Satan with Kane, when Snitsky clobbered Kane with a chair and Kane fell onto Lita. In a parallel universe where good booking still exists, that was Snitsky's only appearance. Sadly, in our world, Snitsky's response was so good that he was put into a feud with the Big Red Machine. Snitsky ended up putting Kane out of action at Taboo Tuesday when he crushed Kane's throat, giving Glenn Jacobs time to film his horror film See No Evil. The WWE then had an inspired move where Heidenreich and Snitsky formed an alliance after meeting at Survivor Series and admiring their work. I like your poetry, and I like what you do to babies. The two conspired at the Royal Rumble to take out The Undertaker during Taker's casket match with Heidenreich, but Kane evened the odds. Sadly, WWE writers failed basic math and booking when they paired Snitsky and Heidenreich as 0 times 0 still equals 0. Snitsky didn't connect with the fans, however, he would keep popping up on WWE television like genital warts until he was granted his release in December 2008, giving fans an early Christmas present. Number 3. Muhammad Hassan. Thanks to Vinnie Mac, Mark Kopani, who was born in Syracuse, New York, became Muhammad Hassan in WWE. His catchphrase was, "I'm Muhammad Hassan and I'm Arab American." The WWE walked on thin ice when it began a series of vignettes featuring a young Arab American facing discrimination in a post-9/11 America. The premise had potential as Hassan's motivation for being a heel was that his fellow Americans' prejudice had driven him to become the villain that people thought he was. Unfortunately, WWE's approach to sensitive issues has always been akin to someone trying to remove a hangnail with a chainsaw. Hassan would work programs with top stars like Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, and Batista. However, he seemed to be missing something, arguably charisma, ring work, or both. Then on July 4th, 2005, the WWE taped an angle on SmackDown where Hassan summoned 5 masked men to beat up The Undertaker and choke him out with piano wire. The angle clearly looked like Hassan was directing terrorists, a clear departure from his original concept as an unjustly judged citizen. To make matters worse, WWE aired the program on July 7th, 2005, the same day as the terrorist attacks on London. The bad choice, and that's putting it nicely, saw SmackDown's network UPN demand that Hassan be kept off the show. Hassan would be written out after a match with The Undertaker at the Great American Bash, where the Deadman powerbombed Hassan through a stage ramp. Rumors persist that Hassan was supposed to defeat Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship, but thankfully, that never happened. Number 4. Mason Ryan. Ryan, a big man from Wales who competed on the UK show Gladiators, based on American Gladiators, before coming to WWE, only worked on the main roster from 2011 to 2012, starting out as an enforcer for CM Punk's new Nexus. Ryan would get to work with top stars such as Randy Orton, Kane, and The Big Show, but few people could explain his push. After that, Mason was limited to largely supporting roles on Superstars and Raw before transferring to NXT in 2012 when it became a developmental territory and working there until his release in 2014. WWE liked the idea of having a babyface superstar from Wales. There were never any issues with Ryan's ego or attitude, so it was hard to see him go. Management felt that he wasn't getting better both in-ring and on mic at a fast enough rate that warranted him staying in NXT developmental. Ryan's WWE appearances were so rare that you probably saw the girl from the Verizon commercials more than him. Number 5. Papa Shango. Papa Shango debuted in early 1992, a time after the rock and wrestling era had ended and the new generation had yet to begin. Shango's strange abilities, such as setting jobbers' boots on fire, making the Ultimate Warrior projectile vomit, and even paralyzing Mean Gene Okerlund's arm, no, we're not making this up, got fans' attention, but not necessarily in a good way. Given crazy gimmicks like The Undertaker, it's hard to say whether Papa Shango's gimmick could have worked. Shango was slated for a main event program with the Ultimate Warrior, but the Warrior was released before it happened. Had the match happened, it's frightening to think of how bad the match would have been given both rings' limited ring skills. Shango would be gone by 1993, going down as one of the most bizarre characters in the WWF. If you think that's bad, consider this. Wrestling legend has all sorts of crazy rumors concerning Papa Shango, such as he was going to control Bob Backlund as some sort of zombie, or even use his black arts to control The Undertaker. The story has a happy ending though, because as we've documented in other videos, Shango would find success when he was repackaged as the Godfather. Number 6. The Great Khali. It's not every day you get a 7'1" wrestler who appeals to a demographic of nearly 1 billion people. Unfortunately, his nickname, the Punjabi Nightmare, was given due to his lack of wrestling ability. When Shawn Michaels has to tell you what camera to look at during a Royal Rumble, you know you're in trouble. Khali's debut was impressive. His initial matches with The Undertaker and Batista are the only talking points of his career. Khali's tremendous charisma has led to some appearances in Hollywood and Bollywood, which is good for him, as he definitely doesn't belong in a wrestling ring. Fans from India, we're sorry, but the Great Khali had an imposing look, but a straitjacket couldn't have limited his moveset any further than it already was. Number 7. Giant Gonzales. In an industry known for exaggerating wrestlers' heights, Giant Gonzales' build height of 7'9" was no exaggeration. Sadly, like the Great Khali, Giant Gonzales' wrestling ability was the inverse of his height. There's only so much you can do with someone, even someone as big as Giant Gonzales was, when your wrestling ability is limited and you have the charisma of a paperclip. Factor in a ridiculous-looking bodysuit with airbrushed muscles and bushy hair, and you had a WrestleCrap legend in the making. The WWF put Gonzales into a feud with The Undertaker that lasted from 1993's Royal Rumble pay-per-view to SummerSlam of that year. Gonzales' lack of ability and charisma killed what could have been one of The Undertaker's biggest feuds. Giant Gonzales lasted less than a year in the WWF and passed away at the young age of 44 in 2010. Number 8. King Kong Bundy. King Kong Bundy made a big splash, both literally and figuratively, at the first WrestleMania, squashing Special Delivery Jones in a 9-second kayfabe time match. When Bundy was teamed with Big John Studd, he began tearing through the WWF's ranks, even doing an injury angle where he broke Andre the Giant's sternum. Clearly, the WWF had big things in store for the Atlantic City Avalanche, and this became evident when Bundy injured Hulk Hogan on an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. The WWF used the injury angle to hype a Bundy vs. Hogan steel cage match at WrestleMania 2. Regrettably, like most of the matches at WrestleMania 2, something was missing from the main event. Although Bundy was more than capable of running house show main events against the Hulkster, he just didn't seem right for the WWF's biggest show of the year. Bundy would return to teaming with Big John Studd, a role he was well suited for. Rumor has it that the WWF was going to eventually split Studd and Bundy up and then have them feud, but Studd left the WWF before this could happen. Number 9. Sid Justice. Sid Justice was known for being a big wrestler who was an even bigger flake behind the scenes. Whether it was his attempt to attack Brian Pillman with a squeegee, stabbing Arn Anderson with a pair of scissors, or disappearing from wrestling to play softball, Sid's monster look was probably the only thing that kept him employed. Despite Sid's penchant for bizarre behavior, Vince McMahon went with a Sid vs. Hulk Hogan match at WrestleMania 8, skipping the Flair vs. Hogan match fans had expected since Flair's arrival in the WWF. Sid's match was awful, noteworthy only for a late run-in by Papa Shango. He was sorting his voodoo dolls backstage that botched the finish. As bad as Sid was, Vince McMahon's obsession with big men kept Psycho Sid around, and this wouldn't be the last time he main evented a WrestleMania, or stunk it up for that matter, losing to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 13. Number 10. The Miz. The Miz is a talented worker with a good amount of charisma. At WrestleMania 27, he had the chance to prove that he was main event worthy. Unfortunately, he was in the right place at the wrong time, as his WWE Championship defense against John Cena was nothing more than a setup for The Rock vs. John Cena match at WrestleMania 28. While The Miz undoubtedly enjoyed his big WrestleMania main event payday, the match itself did nothing to get his career over. Instead, it made him look like a guy that doesn't belong in the main event. He is a terrific mid-card wrestler, but sorry, not a main eventer. Number 11. Jack Swagger. The All-American American is clearly a talented wrestler with the potential to work in the upper card when booked right, but who's been kept at the mid-card level due to bad booking. After his September 2008 debut, the WWE carefully groomed Swagger, giving him the ECW title before putting him on Raw. Swagger went from competing unsuccessfully for the US title to winning the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 26. Swagger cashed in to defeat Chris Jericho for the World Heavyweight Championship on the March 30, 2010 SmackDown, only to hold it for less than 3 months. Swagger's inability to connect with fans and the fact that his mic skills are bad, his push was stopped and he rarely appears on WWE these days. Number 12. Zeus. Actor Tiny Lister starred in the Hulkster's film No Holds Barred as Zeus, an unstoppable monster out to end the career of Hogan's film counterpart, Rip Thomas. When No Holds Barred wasn't the hit that Vince McMahon had hoped for, he decided to use Zeus as a wrestler. Legend has it that McMahon wanted to build Hogan vs. Zeus as a program to headline WrestleMania 6, but went with Warrior vs. Hogan instead. That didn't stop him from milking a Zeus vs. Hogan program all the way from the summer of 1989 until the year's end. Zeus would team with Randy Savage against Hogan and Beefcake at SummerSlam, face Hogan's team at Survivor Series, then wrap things up in a steel cage match in one of the most diabolically planned pay-per-views ever. On December 27, 1989, the WWF aired No Holds Barred the movie, The Match, a pay-per-view where fans had to sit through Hogan's movie, No Holds Barred, before seeing a cage match pitting Hogan and Beefcake against Zeus and Savage. Zeus's lack of wrestling moves and overall lack of ability made him a top candidate for the 7 wrestling wonders of the world, mainly a wonder how he got into the business. Number 13. Sergeant Slaughter. In 1984, Sergeant Slaughter was arguably as over with WWF fans as champion Hulk Hogan. His feud with the Iron Sheik set the WWF on fire, and there's no telling where Slaughter would have gone except for a merchandise dispute with Vince McMahon saw him leave. In 1990, Sergeant Slaughter returned to the WWF, this time as an Iraqi sympathizer who had tired of what he saw as the WWF fans embraced former heel now turned babyface Nikolai Volkoff. While Sergeant Slaughter still had a lot of charisma, his ring work was awful, reminiscent of a woolly mammoth stuck in a tar pit. That didn't stop the WWF from putting the WWF Championship on him at the 1991 Royal Rumble, then pitting him against Hulk Hogan in the main event at WrestleMania 7. Sergeant Slaughter had no business being in the main event at this point in his career, except for Vince McMahon's hope to capitalize on the 1991 Gulf War by running a patriotic angle between the real American Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. So what did you think of our selections? Did we forget to mention any wrestlers with no business in the main event? Analyzing professional wrestling is almost as lively as the matches themselves, so we know some of you don't agree with our picks. Be sure to leave your comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the Slat Rock channel. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and as always, thanks for watching.